So today I was going to start looking at getting an exhaust system made for this bike. I have this pipe that I made for the number 5 bike when it still had the 212 in it. Then when I built that 236 for it, I built a new exhaust for it. And this actually fits pretty decently, but the muffler is pretty restrictive. So either I'm going to modify the muffler or maybe just use part of this header pipe to get something built for now. I want to eventually build a long loop pipe like I have on the 5 bike, but it's not really worth doing with this motor because this motor will be changed and the cylinder head's a little bit different. So I'd rather just build the exhaust system to the parts that I'm going to use. So after looking at this closer, found out that this muffler head is actually cracked around the front, so it should be reworked anyway. So I'm gonna figure out what I want to do here. So I think I just might use the header pipe from here forward, and build a new muffler for it. Get that muffler cut off, and the end squared up on the header pipe. It fits pretty decent. Like I said, this is just going to be a temporary exhaust while this engine is in this frame. It's my collection of exhaust pipes, and I save old parts too, just to recycle stuff, which worked out good for me this time because I was able to use this header pipe. So I found at this piece, it's the right diameter to slip over the end of this. So then what I'll do is I'll put a couple slits in this and then use a clamp on there, so this will clamp on. That'll allow a little bit of flex in the whole system to help prevent any breakage and cracking. And then this has got a little bit of a bend on it, so I can use that to get my muffler pointed where I want it. I got that muffler all cut apart, and I cut down a section of the shell that I'll use for this new muffler. I got this core, baffle core out of that muffler too. And then for end plates, just use a fender washer. It's 2-inch diameter, fits the case good. And then I bore it out to 1.25 in the middle. Something like that. Welded this extension onto the baffle tube. Then I peened over the end for the end plate. So next step is I'll tack weld that end plate onto the body and then start to weld the end of it up. End cap is welded on all the way around, and I welded that baffle tube to the end cap. Doesn't look the prettiest, but it's kind of hard to weld that perforated tube to the end and have it look good. As long as it's solid, really, that's all that matters. So next I will put the packing into the muffler, and I do something different in that I use just exhaust wrap for packing, because this is just fiberglass cloth that's, weaved together. I think that the fiberglass matting that you normally get for baffles is just loose fiberglass, and it eventually can ball up in the end of the muffler or it can just blow out. Whereas with this stuff being a continuous thread that's woven together, it really won't blow out much. It'll pretty much stay in the muffler. Been running this stuff, doing this for a couple of years now like this, and seem to have pretty good results. does seem to quiet it down a little bit. I don't pack it in there really tight. Just kind of go in there loosely so there's airspace in there for the exhaust to move around and get the noise to be absorbed. But it's not really anything too fancy. I kind of twist it a little bit. So with all that packed, I push it down kind of tight to leave me a nice airspace for when I weld the end cap on. And I'll just slide over and just weld that on. So I got the intermediate pipe in place, and I got the muffler positioned roughly where I want it. So I'm gonna put a couple tack welds on it while it's on the bike. It'll be on this joint right here. Then this one will be the slip joint. So I'm done with the exhaust for now. I still need to come up with a mounting solution, but I need to do a couple more things on the bike to make sure that the engine is mounted exactly where it needs to be before I start working on a mounting system for this exhaust. I did paint this front half with some high temp silver because there is this piece of mild steel here. The rest of it is stainless, but I feel like it's more uniform if I just painted the front part all silver, and I'll leave the muffler all raw stainless. Put the header pipe on, new gasket, got those nuts torqued down on the flange. Then I just slid the muffler on, made a little mark so I know where to clock it when I put it back together. So I'm going to take it apart now and put some high temp RTV inside of here just to help it seal. So you just use a worm drive clamp, hose clamp, to clamp this because I don't want it rigid. I want it to be able to move a little bit, to flex. So I built a couple exhaust systems that were very rigid and was constantly breaking them. Then once I went to this type of setup, I haven't been having the same problems. I'm pretty unhappy with how this screw hose clamp worked out on the exhaust. Not getting the clamping force that I want out of it. I cannot find a decent heavy duty band clamp that is the right diameter for this. So I think I'm just going to try making my own. A piece of tubing that fits very nicely around the outside of the pipe. And another piece that I'm going to weld to this. and then I'll slice it in the middle, and it should work out. Got that welded, this piece welded to the piece of tubing. So now I'll cut it in the middle. Here I cut the slot in the clamp that allow it to compress. There's a clamp installed on the pipe. And then this is what I'm going to use to mount the exhaust to the bike. This will slide over the muffler. Then this bracket will go on here and mount to the frame. I've learned that you don't really want a super solid mounting system, because then you'll deal with the pipe cracking all the time, because these bikes do flex quite a bit. Here I have the exhaust fully installed. I have that 2-inch P-clamp around the muffler up to that aluminum plate that I had that's just a leftover suspension linkage part. It came with a shock that I bought off of eBay. So basically just recycled parts. And just use some high temp RTV at the slip joint. Now the new clamp that I made, it tightened down a lot better. So it's still just a little bit of flex there, but you need a little flex in the whole system, or else it's going to break somewhere.